been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me, or
bitch, I can't go nowhere. I can't go nowhere. This is crazy.
Imagine a moment when the very person who stood before you to beg for mercy suddenly turns the tables on the entire courtroom. This isn't just another rapper facing a life sentence. It's the breakdown of a man who believes he was betrayed by the system he once thought he could manipulate. As we delve into the story of Cashin Out, whose real name is John-Michael Hakim Gibson, you'll witness a verbal assault on the entire legal process. His defiance may go down in history as one of the most disturbing moments in modern hip-hop legal history. But before we get to that, let's take a step back and explore how this story unfolded. Cashin Out grew up between Columbus, Georgia, and Atlanta's toughest neighborhoods. As a kid, he fell in love with music by sneaking into local studios and watching mixtapes by Outkast, T, and Gucci Mane. By his late teens, he was recording late at night, teaching himself to rap over rattling 808s and putting raw Atlanta street stories to auto-tune melodies. Around 2009, he hustled self-pressed CDs on street corners and dropped early tapes like Dope Boy Boots and Fully Tape Online. Then in late 2011, Cashin Out hit Atlanta radio with his single Cashin Out. Its spare hypnotic hook propelled him straight to an Epic Records deal and platinum status by early 2012. Suddenly, he was sharing stages with Future, fueling a string of gritty mixtapes and club bangers. But as his career soared, trouble crept in. Legal run-ins and financial disputes piled up until he was accused of leading a human trafficking operation in Atlanta, facing charges of rape, racketeering, trafficking, and unlawfully detaining women. As the judge prepared to hand down the sentence, Cashin Out did the unthinkable. Instead of a quiet, remorseful plea, he doubled down on his innocence. He invoked the Bible, comparing himself to prophets. He called the victims liars, subtly accusing the system of being part of a racist, manipulative agenda. Jesus was falsely accused. He claimed a lot of prophets were falsely accused too. So if you've seen me with my head high, or if you've seen me smiling, it's because I know at the end of the day, through Jesus Christ, the Most High will always give you the actual judgment. This wasn't a defense. It was a direct challenge to the very system he once thought he could manipulate. Cashin Out wasn't begging for leniency. He was accusing the legal system of spiritual failure. He went on to claim that every woman involved in the case was lying, that they left and came back willingly, that no one was ever forced, and that the entire trial was built on coerced testimony from people pressured to take plea deals. "I've only dealt with grown women," he said. Nothing was forced, nothing was coerced. But prosecutors say they have surveillance, wiretaps, and multiple victims who were allegedly beaten, threatened, and trafficked for months on end. They claim Cashin Out was the ringleader directing operations, keeping profits, and enlisting his own mother to help funnel the money. His attorney asked for 30 years, arguing that the state's original offer was 25, a plea deal that Cashin Out rejected because he wanted his day in court. Instead of 25 years, he got life, and on top of that, 70 more years stacked behind it. Let that sink in. His own legal team warned him, take the deal, but Cashin Out believed he could win. Now, his fall from grace is one of...
So I really thank you for providing us a fair trial. Just me getting to know you during trial, I was like, you know, she's just the judge. But when you sit 12 people in that panel and you know, have them, you know, judge our lives and, you know, put them in a position to judge our lives, you know, it takes you back to, once again, the Bible, when people had to judge these prophets' lives.
The most brutal in recent memory. The most heartbreaking part, his mother is also behind bars. She was sentenced to 30 years for her alleged role in the trafficking ring. According to court records, she was allegedly helping to manage the women, transport them, and even handle some of the finances. This wasn't just a son going down, it was an entire family operation collapsing in disgrace. As rapper Turk reacted online, it was clear the culture didn't see this coming. But to go down with your mama? It's messed up, bro. That's the part that shook the hip-hop community. Now, there are two very different narratives here. One where Cash Out swears he's innocent, and another where victims testified in brutal detail about being trafficked, raped, and emotionally destroyed by a man they once thought cared for them. So what happens when a rapper once held as a Southern star goes to trial and loses everything, including his family, his freedom, and his legacy? You get a courtroom meltdown for the ages. As we continue to unravel this story, you'll witness the horrifying disconnect between these two narratives. The trial files and devastating evidence will reveal the hidden messages, encrypted DMIs, and off-the-record whispers that became crucial evidence against Cash Out, while he stood in front of the judge preaching about innocence, victimhood, and spiritual persecution. The DA was quietly unloading one of the most devastating evidence folders in Georgia courtroom history. RICO charges, wiretaps, witness statements, physical evidence, bank transfers, the works were all used to build a case against Cash Out. This wasn't just another misunderstanding. It was a playbook, a strategy, a well-oiled machine of exploitation and profit, and according to the prosecution, Cash Out was at the top. As Cash Out sat in the courtroom, his defense team argued that he was being unfairly targeted by law enforcement and the prosecution. However, the evidence presented revealed a more sinister picture of a man who had built an empire of exploitation and manipulation. The trial files and devastating evidence revealed hidden messages, encrypted DMIs, and off-the-record whispers that became crucial evidence against Cash Out, while he stood in front of the judge preaching about innocence, victimhood, and spiritual persecution. The DA was quietly unloading one of the most devastating evidence folders in Georgia courtroom history. RICO charges, wiretaps, witness statements, physical evidence, bank transfers, the works were all used to build a case against Cash Out. This wasn't just another misunderstanding. It was a playbook, a strategy, a well-oiled machine of exploitation and profit, and according to the prosecution, Cash Out was at the top. The ring he had built wasn't just personal. It was organized, involving multiple locations, rented apartments, and transportation plans. According to court documents, Cash Out's mother played a direct role in coordinating some of the activities. She wasn't just complicit, she was convicted. But here's what the prosecution says nailed the case. A series of surveillance videos, phone calls from jail, Instagram DMs, and bank statements, all tracing back to Cash Out. The lifestyle he flaunted online became evidence in court. One particularly damaging moment came when a recorded call between Cash Out and one of the alleged victims showed him coaching her on what to say if questioned. The prosecution used
Out, well, good luck on appeal, but shit, they gave you so much time. This is the crazy thing about a sentence.
that tape to claim witness tampering. Cash Out rejected a 25-year plea deal before the trial began. He wanted his day in court, a fatal mistake, according to many legal experts. Instead, he got life and 70 more years on top. In the moments leading up to sentencing, Cash Out delivered one of the most unhinged, defiant courtroom addresses ever seen. He didn't just deny the allegations, he claimed spiritual persecution. If you saw him with his head high, or if you saw him smiling, it's because I know at the end of the day, through Jesus Christ, the Most High will always give you the actual judgment. In another bizarre turn, he claimed that none of the women ever accused him before the indictment, that everything changed only after prosecutors got involved. For this trial, no woman can say anything about me for this indictment. No woman can say anything about me. But the court wasn't buying it, especially after prosecutors played jailhouse calls where Cash Out allegedly mocked the victims, suggested they were lying for leverage, and even compared himself to martyrs. This wasn't just a defense strategy. It became a psychological profile. Prosecutors described him as a master manipulator who played victim in public, but wielded control behind closed doors. Even rapper Turk, who tried to show support in his reaction video, couldn't fully defend the charges, especially with that charge when you are a chamem and you have our charge. You know what I'm saying? Those are the two things that you don't want to go to jail for. The social stigma, the danger inside prison, the complete loss of reputation. Cash Out wasn't just convicted, he was erased. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Cash Out supporters, including some in the rap community, claimed this was a targeted takedown. Some believe Cash Out was punished more harshly because of his image, his background, and the nature of his music. They argue that the system was waiting for a reason to bury him. There are whispers, unproven but persistent, that undercover surveillance began years before any formal indictment, that the police were watching, tracking, and building a case slowly, waiting until the RICO charges could stick. Some believe this wasn't justice, it was a setup. Even Cash Out alluded to this theory in his final statement. I feel like some people can get bullied into a situation that they don't really want to do. I'm sitting here just holding my head high and just, feeling that one day the truth would come out. But no matter which side you're on, one thing is clear. This case wasn't about music, it was about power. The power to control, the power to exploit, the power to walk away while others took the fall. And now that power is gone, the aftermath and a dark pattern in hip-hop. The music is dead, the name is stained, the man is locked away. But what if the most disturbing part of this entire saga isn't what was said in court? It's what was never allowed to be said at all, beyond the headlines, beyond the verdict, beyond that viral courtroom outburst. There are still questions that have never been answered. Victims who never took the stand, and a trail of psychological and emotional destruction that continues to unfold far beyond the courtroom. Sentenced to life in prison plus 70 years, Cash Out is currently being held in a Georgia state facility under conditions that are far from ordinary. Sources close to the correctional system say he's now—
The truth will come out. One day, the truth will come out on my situation. One day, the truth will come out on this rape allegation, that these things never happened. And
now being housed in protective custody due to the nature of his charges. In prison, sex offenders are considered the lowest of the low. Among them, those convicted of sex trafficking, especially involving manipulation, coercion, or young victims, are often targeted by other inmates. Inmates don't forget charges like Cash Outs. Many see it as their mission to make sure that men with those crimes never live in peace behind bars. He's now in a segregated unit monitored around the clock, and sources suggest he's already had at least one incident involving other inmates threatening him. Turk's warning wasn't just words, it was prophecy. Somebody going to want to see him for that charge. Bro, you got the charge, so watch your back. While Cash Out's physical safety is being protected, his reputation is beyond saving. There's now an entire movement of survivors, activists, and advocates who see his trial as a symbol, not just of one man's actions, but of how common this kind of manipulation is in the entertainment industry. Some of the women who were not part of the trial but allegedly came forward during the investigation claimed they were never called to testify. Their stories were allegedly rejected by the prosecution as not necessary for conviction, but that doesn't mean they weren't real. A leaked statement from one woman obtained by local advocates claimed she had known Cash Out since 2013 and that he slowly cut her off from family, controlled her finances, and promised music career help in exchange for obedience. Another claimed that Cash Out had her tattoo his initials on her body as a loyalty test, a tactic known in psychological coercion circles as branding. None of these women made it to the stand, but their allegations, even if unofficial, paint a terrifying picture of how deep the grooming allegedly went. And it raises a question: why weren't they heard? Court documents show Cash Out's mother was allegedly responsible for transporting the women, booking locations, and helping collect payments. Phone records reveal dozens of messages between her and other women discussing schedules, earnings, and movements. She wasn't a passive enabler, she was part of the machine. Her 30-year sentence. Some legal experts believe it was a negotiated silence, a plea deal to prevent her from testifying and possibly exposing deeper layers of the ring. But Cash Out isn't alone. He's just the latest name on the long and growing list of hip-hop artists facing RICO indictments and serious federal charges. Young Thug, 6 Ice 9, Casanova, Ethan Lucci, the list goes on. This is more than a coincidence. It's a trend. Prosecutors are increasingly treating rappers like organized crime figures, watching their lyrics, monitoring their movements, and using RICO laws to target entire crews at once. Cash Out's case was one of the earliest where the RICO framework was used to prosecute alleged sex trafficking instead of drugs or gun charges. If this becomes a precedent, the music industry will never be the same. Critics argue that it's an attempt by law enforcement and prosecutors to get in on the action and profit from the lucrative world of hip-hop, but supporters claim that it's about justice for victims who have been silenced for too long. The debate rages on, with some arguing that Cash Out was just a symptom of a larger problem within the industry. Others say he was simply getting away with it for too long.
Consecutive with count 22.
Now, there was more to his final sentence, but let's just say he got life in prison plus 70 years, and his cousin met the same fate. As for Mama Cash, she got the least amount.
And finally, got caught. As the dust settles on this high-profile case, one thing is clear: nothing will ever be the same for the hip-hop world again. The hip-hop world has been forever changed by the sentencing of Cash Out to life in prison. But what does this case really say about the music industry and its relationship with the law? As we delve into the details of Cash Out's conviction, one thing becomes clear: the lines between art and evidence are becoming increasingly blurred. Prosecutors are increasingly treating rappers like organized crime figures, watching their lyrics, monitoring their movements, and using RICO laws to target entire crews at once. This trend is a far cry from the early days of hip-hop, when artists were celebrated for their creativity and self-expression. Now, as the industry has grown in power and influence, so to have the consequences for those who push boundaries or cross into illegal territory. Cash Out's case was one of the earliest where the RICO framework was used to prosecute alleged sex trafficking instead of drugs or gun charges. If this becomes a precedent, the music industry will never be the same. Critics argue that it's an attempt by law enforcement and prosecutors to get in on the action and profit from the lucrative world of hip-hop. But supporters claim that it's about justice for victims who have been silenced for too long. But what does the evidence really show? For those still skeptical, consider this: none of Cash Out's alleged victims were paid or compensated. Most of them, anonymous, even in court records, walked away with nothing. This raises questions about the nature of consent and coercion in these situations. Why would so many women from different cities with no known connection come forward with such similar stories? Why would multiple video calls obtained from jail show Cash Out trying to calm or coach the same women prosecutors say were being trafficked? And what about his own mother? She accepted a 30-year plea deal rather than fight the case. This is not the voice of innocence, but of a man who still doesn't believe he did anything wrong. The fact that he said this in court, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, speaks volumes about his mindset and attitude towards his alleged victims. Cash Out's downfall wasn't isolated. He wasn't the first, and he definitely won't be the last. If you've been paying attention to the rap game over the past 10 years, you'll see a disturbing pattern. A pattern of artists who rise through the charts, flaunt wealth, power, and dominance, then spiral into legal chaos involving drugs, guns, sex trafficking, and in some cases, murder. Let's recap the most obvious. R. Kelly is serving a 31-year prison sentence for sex-related crimes, including child pornography and sex trafficking. His projected release date is December 21st, 2045, when he'll be 79 years old. R. Kelly's lawyers have made alarming claims about his safety within the prison system, alleging that authorities conspired to have him killed by an inmate from the Aryan Brotherhood gang. Meanwhile, 6ix9ine and Flipped and cooperated with the feds, testified against his own crew, and received a drastically reduced sentence of just 2 years. He walked out of prison under federal protection, but will most likely end up in a ditch if those he snitched on ever get their hands on him. Young Thug and over 20
Confinement to run consecutive with count 10. On count 10, rape. Life in confinement. Count 12, aggravated sodomy. Life in confinement to run concurrent
8 alleged associates were indicted under Georgia's RICO law, accused of operating a violent street gang under the cover of a record label called YSL. The crimes differ, but one trafficking, the other violence, with art used as evidence in both cases. In both Cash Out and Diddy's case, celebrity was not a shield, but an accelerant. Misogyny, manipulation, and mental control are recurring tools, not accidents. RICO is now a permanent weapon in the state's war on rap, and public reaction is disturbingly inconsistent, influenced more by celebrity than the actual crimes. While we take a trip down memory lane, we can't forget about Diddy's recent case. The trial began on May 5, 2025 at the Daniel Patrick Moen U.S. Courthouse in New York City. The prosecution presented numerous witnesses, including Diddy's former partner Cassie Ventura, who accused him of physical and emotional abuse during their decade-long relationship. Other witnesses testified about Diddy's alleged involvement in freak-off parties where women were coerced into sexual activities. Cassie Ventura described the encounters as increasingly fueled by drugs and coercion. A security guard from a hotel where Diddy was allegedly seen physically assaulting Ventura in 2016 testified about the incident. The jury delivered a mixed verdict, finding Diddy guilty of 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, but acquitting him of the more serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. The outcome has significant implications for Diddy's legacy and public image as a figure who has influenced trends and culture for decades. As we reflect on these cases, it becomes clear that power plus fame creates the illusion of invincibility. But eventually, the truth wins out, no matter how long it takes. As we continue to reflect on the verdict delivered by the jury, it's clear that Diddy's guilty plea for 2 counts of transportation for prostitution marks a significant turning point in his career and public image. The outcome has sparked a mix of reactions from fans, critics, and those who have been affected by his actions. Cassie Ventura's testimony was particularly pivotal in shaping the narrative against Diddy. Her decade-long relationship with him had been marked by allegations of physical and emotional abuse. The stories she shared about being coerced into sexual activities during freak-off parties were deeply disturbing and painted a picture of a man who wielded his power to manipulate those around him. But what's striking is how Diddy's actions, as described by Ventura and other witnesses, are not isolated incidents. They appear to be part of a broader pattern that has been enabled by his fame and influence. The security guard from the hotel where Diddy allegedly physically assaulted Ventura in 2016 testified about the incident, further solidifying the case against him. The jury's mixed verdict, finding Diddy guilty of 2 counts but acquitting him of more serious charges, raises questions about the justice system and its ability to hold powerful individuals accountable. It also highlights the challenges that come with prosecuting cases involving celebrities or those who have used their platforms to shape culture. Diddy's legacy, which has been built on his music and philanthropic efforts, is now forever tainted by these allegations. The verdict serves as a stark reminder that power and fame—
You can't show a flaw. And that's a tough one. It's a tough one for me because I had flaws in my life. So you have to tell the complete truth on that stand. And I got up there and see people put their hand on that Bible and not tell the complete truth. And that's baffling. But at the end of the day, I put my trust in the Most High. I put my trust in the universe to bring out the truth.
Can create a false sense of invincibility, but eventually, the truth catches up with you. As we move forward from this moment, it's essential to recognize the impact that Diddy's actions have had on his victims and the broader society. The implications of this case extend far beyond Diddy himself. It serves as a wake-up call for those in positions of power, including celebrities and influencers who often wield significant influence over their fans. It highlights the need for greater accountability and awareness about issues like sex trafficking, coercion, and abuse of power. As we look to the future, it's crucial that we prioritize education, prevention, and support services for victims of abuse and exploitation. By doing so, we can create a safer and more just society where no one is above the law. In the aftermath of Diddy's sentencing, Many have taken to social media to express their thoughts on the verdict, while some have praised the justice system for holding him accountable. Others have criticized the acquittal on more serious charges. Regardless of one's perspective, it's clear that this case has had a profound impact on our collective understanding of power dynamics and accountability. The verdict also raises questions about the role of fame and celebrity culture in perpetuating harm. Diddy's influence and wealth enabled him to create environments where exploitation and abuse were not only tolerated, but also encouraged. It's a stark reminder that fame does not exempt individuals from facing consequences for their actions. As we move forward, it's essential to acknowledge the complexity of this case and its implications for our society. The verdict serves as a call to action for all of us, to recognize the power dynamics at play in our lives, and to work towards creating a more just and equitable world. In the coming weeks and months, we can expect to see a renewed focus on issues like sex trafficking, abuse of power, and exploitation. This case has sparked a necessary conversation about accountability and justice, one that will have far-reaching implications for years to come. The guilty verdict is not just a victory for those who have been affected by Diddy's actions. It's also a testament to the resilience and courage of his victims. By speaking out against their abuser, they have helped to create a safer world for others and ensured that justice is served. As we bid farewell to Diddy's public persona as an invincible figure, we're left with a more nuanced understanding of power and accountability. The truth has indeed won out, and it's a victory that will be remembered for years to come. In the end, this case serves as a stark reminder that no one is above the law. Regardless of their fame or influence, Diddy's sentencing marks a significant turning point in his career and public image. But more importantly, it represents a step towards creating a safer and more just society where everyone is held accountable for their actions. The jury's verdict has sent shockwaves throughout the entertainment industry, sparking a renewed focus on accountability and justice. As we look to the future, it's essential that we continue this conversation and work towards creating a world where no one is above the law. Diddy's guilty plea may mark the end of an era for him as a public figure. https://www.youtube.com watch v equals Ikayothis and pp equals Yigapi Tipsuk Wigwi.
Servitude, which is sex trafficking. I'm wondering, I want to see the descriptions of those. I didn't really follow this case a lot. This didn't get televised. But I did hear, like, pretty much all the women, like, came forward and admitted that they were getting their ass beat or they were, threatened to continue in this sexual, well, they now call it sex trafficking, right? All right. Well, Cash Out. Well, good luck on appeal, but shit, they gave you so much time. This is the crazy thing about a sentence. They gave him so much time that if he died 3 times, he's still going to come back and still not leave.
You have no heart. And I know people want me to stay in line or walk a toe, but when you speaking something truthfully and you speaking from the heart and you know that this is not your character, something must be said. And I just wanted to address the court and give my perspective on the things that I felt during this trial and the judgment that I felt that the jurors gave us was not the correct judgment. And it will show.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Matthews.
Your Honor, thank you for allowing Mr. Gibson to speak to this honorable court.